let me just now build it up with calm measure with Major Shah. Major Shah, let me now approach this from a different tangent. As things stand, for raw recruits in the Indian Armed Forces, they currently end their tenure at the age of about 35, as things stand.
Right, Rishabh.
What generally happens once retirement is taken, let's say 16, 17 years, and you go up the ranks? There are something called, for people watching the broadcast, the NDA and the military academies, they train the officers, okay, and the officers have the option to spend their entire life in service. For those who are recruits, just like in sports, the average age of retirement is about 35, okay, and you go through the ranks of what are called non-commissioned officers. That's where you get all the ranks of your Lance Nayaks and Subedars. So when the retirement is done, Major Shah, and 35 is roughly my age, okay, so you still have a life and career in front of you. What has generally happened?
It depends from an individual to individual. I know one person who's in fact rather our age almost, who has been a soldier in the army, not an officer, who's been a Havaldar. He's a news anchor and he's doing very well. He's widely known by people, but these are exceptions, right? But you have to have that fire in your belly. If you are unstoppable, you are unstoppable. Now what happens generally in the broader terms, many of them get employed as security guards, or they go back to the village and they do kheti, because they do kheti, they do farming because they want to do farming.
Okay.
They've left the army voluntarily to do farming. Now, even people like, it depends on rank. If you're a Subedar Major, you can get retired in your 40s. Like for example, Paramveer Chakra, Yogendra Singh Yadav, honorary captain. He's about 42 years old. He just retired a few months back.
So there are, but very rare occurrences in which raw recruits are given officer ranks. So it's uncommon, it's rare, but it does happen. But in a common way, after having spent about, I'm assuming around about 17 odd years, okay, on average, in uniform, as things stand, after 17 years, you get a pension, Major Shah?
Absolutely, yes.
So you get a pension at 35, you're generally retiring average age. You get a pension and you spend 17 years in the armed forces, and then you have to figure out, okay, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? Sports persons face the same dilemma. If you're a cricketer, 35, 36, 37, tennis player, very rarely do you extend that. There are exceptions, but this is when active service or active profession to something you've devoted your early part of your life to ends. So the principal difference being here, now what would, in traditional ways, Major Shah, as while waiting for the press conference, what is the kind of remuneration would a young officer as of 2 years ago, a young Jawan as of 2 years ago, what remuneration would they get?
Again, it depends, Rishabh. It depends on your capability and your skill and your potential and what you are capable of delivering. It's about demand and supply in the market. You cannot really generalize again of a soldier that, okay...
Yeah, no, I'm saying when you join up, okay, because we now know, when you join up, we now know on the Agniveer scheme, we have a full data set of how much people are going to get paid, okay? They're going to get paid better salaries than many companies in this country offer at the starting level. But as things stand, as of 2 years ago, what was the status? When you joined and you were, became a recruit and was sent to your first assignment, what would you be paid right now?
So as per what I get to hear, the hearsay is about 30 to 40,000 rupees, which is, Rishabh, money is not the criteria for joining the army, firstly.
Yeah.
The criteria is, it's got to be a calling. You got to feel a passion.
Yeah, so Major Shah, that's out of it, right? We are assuming that passion already exists, okay? Because you are volunteering in full knowledge of what you're being asked to do or what you will be asked to do. So in full knowledge. So we are given that the passion exists. So it's coming down. It's not like people in this country now no longer want to join the armed forces. They changed their mind a couple of weeks ago. Okay, that hasn't happened. So the passion exists. So it comes down to the details. The devil is in the detail. Okay, it's about fairness. It's about ensuring that you have clarity and you are being well treated which is where the confusion is about, right? So it's not about passion. Nobody's doubting the passion of anybody who wants to sign up for the armed forces. So it boils down to a clarity in the details, which is where I think we've been struggling. So that 17-year service, we are now saying that for 3/4 or 75% of the recruits, it becomes a 4-year service. Is that where we stand, Major Shah?
Right, right.
Okay. So the difference being that if you were to go to university and do your undergrad, which is 3 to 4 years, or do an undergrad and master's, which is for sure 4 to 5 years, this is roughly equivalent to that. You're joining at 17, 18, and you're finishing at 20 to 23. Roughly correct,
Correct.
Nisha?
Correct.
Okay.
With you.
Okay. So the other big difference being is that you're being given a package at the end of your tenure of 4 years. I think it equates to 11 or 12 lakhs in addition to your salary, instead of getting a pension. So it's like a golden handshake is being offered. Is that roughly correct?
Well, in a way, not a golden handshake. You are here, you will be doing your degree, right? Here you are getting equipped with knowledge, skills, which is far more than a degree. Military training, not everyone would be privileged to get that. And that will hold you in good stead, it will equip you, and you would be able to stand tall in any field. And army personnel, not an officer only, even a Jawan, will excel, will outshine in any field, Rishabh, not just in security jobs. So when you are equipped with that skill, in fact, you can invest in 4 years and then decide to study thereafter. Like for example,
but here's the problem, right? If I'm going to school and I know I'm going to Delhi University, okay, I know my course ends in 3 years, and after that I have to do a master's, or I have to look for a job, or start my own company, or do something different, right? But maybe since the age of 15, 16, or maybe earlier in many cases, because these are in many cases multi-generational families, okay? Then Major Shah, now you thought you had a plan for 17 years. I'll join the army, and if I do well, okay, next 17, 18 years, if I serve my country well, next 17, 80 years, I'm sorted, after which I will get a modest pension, right? So this is the big change that is taking place, that instead of 17 years later, where you thought you're committed to a profession for 17 years, you are now saying that 3/4 of you will only be committing to a profession for 4 years. Now, what do we do now?
One thing, I would like to just put one thing in perspective, Rishabh. It's not about 17, 18 years you go home. Or in 17 years service you go home, or at 35 at your age, about almost, about a few years here and there. That doesn't mean you go home. It only ensures you a pensionable service, and provided you have chosen to go home, provided you have opted for a voluntary retirement, that I want to go home with pension, then you have to do minimum 17 years, which means yes. Now the person can go home with as old as you, who can go home, and he can do whatever he wishes to do. But if he wants to superannuate, which means, like for example in the army, an example I'm equating, a lieutenant general equates with 60 years of service when he is 60 years old. Similarly, if he has to superannuate, like for example Subedar Major Sanjay Singh, Paramveer Chakra, who was my instructor in academy, he's in his mid-40s, he's still serving, he hasn't retired, he's very much there. Like that, there are many Jawans who become junior commissioned officers and who serve up till their late 40s in fact.
Okay, but it comes down to the basic thing is that in your mind, okay, you're committing yourself for the past few years to a certain qualification process, which is a very rigorous qualification process, so you have to work hard towards it, okay. Now, Major Shah, we now have clarity from the University Grants Commission of what this 4-year tenure will qualify in terms of a degree. We have clarity from the MOD and the MHA that in the PSUs, in the paramilitary forces, in fact in the MOD staffers themselves, you're going to have job opportunities which are being put aside. In the end, we only need 36,000 jobs that need to be created in 2026 to look after the first cohort. Is there more clarity available today of where these 36,000 jobs are going to come from?
Okay, Rishabh, very good question by you. I'll equate it with a small thing. You are a managing editor of a very big channel, widely watched. Supposing you are given a chance that you have to recruit 10 anchors in your channel. These anchors, their speech is bad, their diction is bad, they cannot connect with the audience, they don't have the QRs for it, as simple as that. Would you recruit, there might be thousands of them who have come, would you recruit them? You would not, because they do not meet the parameters. You cannot guarantee them a job in your channel. That just because, okay, I have to employ you, either there is work or there is no work, I will employ you. No one can give a guarantee. In civil life, Rishabh, you know, 6 months. There's no guarantee. Where's the guarantee in civil life? In 6 months or in 8 months or in a year or a two, you can get a pink slip and you can ask to go home. Here there's a guarantee. Here there's a guarantee for 4 years, 100%. Thereafter, if you are not excellent, you don't have to be good, you have to be exceptional. If you are exceptional at your job, you will be retained, which means 25% who are going to be exceptional, highly motivated, very good performers. So it will create a feeling of healthy competition. You will try in being better than the best if you want to be retained. But if you wish to do only short service, the way I wish to do only short service, I was very clear. I'll do a few years. In fact, rather for me, I'll do 5 years. I wish for me it was 3 years. I wish I would have been even happier. Like when I talk about me, I talk on behalf of my course mates, my peers, my immediate seniors, my immediate juniors, and the people I know who had come to do only 5 years with the intention that we will take army experience. It's like a qualification, Rishabh.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like a qualification.
Okay, but it does then boils down to what is then the leg up. So the leg up is the training you're being offered. The leg up is now the degree that you will get alongside. But there remain, any time you're doing a fundamental change which hasn't been tried in 80 years, you can't be expected to do it in a straight line. It's not going to happen. Major Shah, so for the 75% of people who will not qualify, because it's a percentage number, okay? You can be, the next person. It's like giving your IIT examination or UPSC examination, okay? It comes down to ranks, and you could be the next rank, but you don't get a spot. So there has to be some kind of clarity on what your options are. My question to you is, after all the announcements that have been made in the past 3 days, is there better clarity at least on what your options are? There's no guarantee, but what is the better clarity?
Okay, very good question again, and through your question, I'm sure you'll be able to answer a lot of young minds who are having this. In fact, you have spoken on behalf of the lot of minds who would be having the same question. I'll give it very clearly so that everyone will understand it, and it's my guarantee, Rishabh. If I am unable to make anyone understand this, it's my failure. Okay, look at this. I've done a course that I speak French. I go to an institute, I learn French, I come up with a certificate, with a degree that I speak French. I go to Paris. I don't know how to speak French. What will I do with a degree? Now I have no degree that I speak French, but I can go to Paris. I know how to speak French. I have the skill, the ability. I can go and say, bonjour, comment allez-vous, and I can find a way out. So which is better, a paper degree or ability? And
no, there's no doubt about it. Okay, so can we envision, Major Shah, a future, I'm talking about 4-5 years from now, where the best of the best continue to serve in the Indian Armed Forces for the better part of 2 decades, the top 25%. Of the remaining 75% who will also have great ability and training, we are then seeing both PSU, government and private sector, like you would at any IIT placement cell, okay, that all these companies would be there and you would have a host of opportunities to pick and choose from. So you will have done a 4-year training in leadership and in skill sets. During the 4-year training, you would have been paid reasonably well. You will get a lump sum at the end of it. So at least in that interim period, financially you're well looked after. And after that, you can expect that at the door, there will be hundreds of companies lining up to hire you.
Rishabh, a message to everyone who has apprehensions about the scheme, that what will the boys do after 4 years? Just when the caterpillar thought it is the end of the world, it transformed into a beautiful butterfly. And that apprehension is always there. Now, I can tell you one thing, through personal example, I've been through it. I signed up for the army, I resigned from a leading multinational company where I was getting a very lucrative salary. Not just me, many of my colleagues who joined the Short Service Commission are in the same boat. So we all left our lucrative job because we were motivated. Ashok Chakra, that's the highest award for gallantry in the peacetime, is my course mate, Colonel D. Sri Ram Kumar. When he was a Major Saab with less than 4 years service, he got an Ashok Chakra in the same area where I was serving at that time. So he's Paramveer Chakra Vijetas. You see, all of them are in the service of roughly 4 years. So, okay, now what will they do after 4 years? The world is open, and let me tell you one thing, what my gut feeling says. We left, we knew what we had signed up for. We knew there will be agony after 4.5 years, and we are about to leave the army. We left the army. I will not say we left the army. We completed our contractual period of 5 years in the year 2008, when recession was at the peak. There were no jobs available. And I was lucky enough to get admission at IIM Calcutta through the army. Army ensured that. Now, companies had refused to come on IIM campus. Now what do? We were in a mess. So I can well understand the agony. But before, till the last day, 100% of our course was placed with a 6-digit salary. 100%. Okay. Now, the agony, and I can understand, but I can tell you one thing. I'll conclude by saying that, Rishabh, the 25% which is retained in the army would be envious of the 75% who goes out and is absorbed by the private sector outside.
And the PSUs and government, and which is what? In the end, it comes down to offering clarity, offering options, okay? So that one can commit wholeheartedly.